The village of Sineun Ungola has special meaning for the Gullah Geechee. This is where scholars located a song that linked a family from Georgia directly to Sierra Leone. The data that informed their discovery was collected by linguist Lorenzo Dow Turner. In 1931, Turner visited the Georgia Sea Islands to record people speaking and singing in Gullah. He recognized one song, sung by a Gullah Geechee woman named Amelia Dawley, as being in Mende, an African language spoken primarily in Sierra Leone.
Okay, Empress, it is with great pleasure that I report our matriclan analysis successfully identified your maternal genetic ancestry. By analyzing your mitochondrial DNA sequence, we have determined that you share maternal genetic ancestry with Mende people in Sierra Leone today. Damn! Oh my God.
Decades later, Joseph Opala and two colleagues set out to find the song in Sierra Leone.
I formed a team with the Sierra Leonean linguist, Tazif Karoma, and with Cynthia Schmidt, who's an American ethnomusicologist. We actually decided over our Christmas break to just go from village to village in that area, playing the song. We got to this one village, and a young woman began to sing along in her language from the very first moments of that recording. We then went to look for it in the United States. Turner had recorded it from a woman, Amelia Dawley. We wondered if she had children or grandchildren who might still remember the song. And it turned out that her daughter, Mary Moran, could still sing that song all these years later.
In 1997, Mary Moran and her family went to Sierra Leone, where Mary met Bindu Jabati, the woman who knew the Mende song. Centuries ago, an African woman carried a song with her across the ocean. Now her song has helped her descendants to trace their roots. The Moran family homecoming was documented in the film The Language You Cry In, which is broadcast in Sierra Leone every year on Independence Day.
Negro spirituals are really pure West African chants. And if you went back to the coast of West Africa, you'll hear those blue notes and you hear that sound, which was the basis for our American music, jazz, blues, spirituals, and gospel.
It's the music of the ancestors, and in singing these spirituals, you feel their spirit. It's the music that belongs to us, so it's important that in singing these songs that we remember them.
The connection is just so strong.
You ain't ashamed to care for we African people.
Amen.
Come to...
For many years, a circular dance called a ring shout was a part of Gullah Geechee Christian worship services. Performed from the days of enslavement into the mid-20th century, the ring shout has its roots in West African rituals, in which participants move in a counterclockwise circle, shuffling their feet, clapping, and singing in a call and response style. Enslaved people often worshiped this way in small structures called praise houses, where they could practice their unique form of Afro-Christianity away from the eyes and ears of their white enslavers.
They were out there doing the ring shout, and they were going in different areas. And when we're telling our stories, we do the ring shout. So I was actually able to see that.
The Gullah Geechee people are unique. And among all African Americans, they have maintained the broadest and deepest set of African retentions within their culture. And so being able to go back to the wellspring for those cultural expressions is important for the people that carry them and keep them alive in this country.
Ebo Landing, which is also known as Ebo Maat suicide, is one of the most unforgettable historic events that happened in Denver Creek on St. Simon's Island in Georgia, United States. The event took place in the year 1803, and it was recorded as one of the largest mass suicide of enslaved people when Ebo captives from what is now Nigeria were taken to Georgia coast. The Ebo and the West African captive arrived in Savannah, Georgia in May 1803 on the slave ship which is also called Wanderer. It was believed that these soon-to-be slaves were purchased for an average of $100 per head by the slave merchants in the person of John Cooper and Thomas Spadden, with the intention to be resold to the plantation on nearby St. Simon Island in Georgia. It was said that the chained slaves were packed on the deck of the coastal vessel, the York, which might take them to St. Simon. During the voyage, approximately 75 Igbos slaves rose in rebellion, took control of the ship, drowned their captors, and within the process caused the grounding of the ship in Denver Creek. The cause of event that occurred next remains unclear. It is only known that Ebo marched ashore singing, led by their high chiefs. Then, at his direction, they walked into the marshy waters of Denver Creek, committing mass suicide. Rox Rockin, a white overseer on the nearby Pierce Butler plantation, wrote the primary account of the mass Ebo suicide incident. He and another man, identified also as Captain Peterson, recovered many of the drowned bodies. Apparently, only a few number of 75 Igbos drowned on that very day. 13 bodies were recovered, but others remain missing, and a few may have survived the suicide episode, making the particular numbers of death uncertain. Regardless of the numbers, the death signals a strong story of resistance, as these captives overwhelmed their captors during a strange land, and lots of them took their own life instead of remaining enslaved in a new land they were soon to be taken to. The Ebo Landing gradually took on enormous symbolic importance in local African American folklore. The mutiny and subsequent suicide by the Ebo people was called by many locals the primary freedom march within the history of black people. Local people claim that the landing and surrounding marches in Denver Creek, where the Ebo people committed mass suicide in the year 1803, were haunted by the souls of the dead Ebo slaves. The story of the Ebo who chose death over slavery, which had long been part of Gullah folklore, was finally recorded from various oral sources within the 1930s by members of the Federal Writers Project.
Based off of our presence in North America, the African Americans, would you say that we are the original Native Americans? Professor, we need to know that. We have several books popping up on the scene. I totally disagree with that, but I want to hear what the professional has to say, the one that studied on genetics. Can we talk about that? Are African Americans, Native Americans, are we closely related? I mean, talk to us about that, sir.
Here we go.
I need that.
No, that is a misnomer, a falsehood, an outright lie. Okay, that's exactly what that is. We are not the original Native American. There is a history that Native Americans have, and actually it's disrespectful for African Americans to go out and say that they're Native American to the rich Native American cultures that have been here for thousands of years. I mean, Native Americans are descendants of Asians who came here, who migrated here, and we have the archaeology, we have the biological anthropology, we have the genetics, the fossils, everything is there, show and prove, okay? So there is no debate on that. We look at Native American populations. They were at one point very large. With the settlement and the arrival and settlement of Europeans, those populations were brought down to very few numbers. And so the genetic diversity, the biological diversity, the cultural diversity was lost. Okay, but they were not of recent African descent, okay? Those Native Americans were not. Now, for some reason, there are African Americans who are here who want to claim this connection with Native Americans. I don't know for what, outside of maybe trying to get some money from casinos or something. I don't know, but they want to have this connection with Native Americans. And it's funny because it's almost like we are the Native Americans. And so whoever was here or whatever history that you can show coming from Asia just wasn't true. I mean, it's even more shocking that you would even say that. But I also don't understand why a black person would want to be anything other than African. Okay? That is the real deep sort of issue that has to be addressed by those individuals who continue to argue. I mean, they continue to argue this point. Now, I'm not going to say that no black folk came here when the Europeans came here early on, Columbus and all that stuff, right? Because I'm sure there was black folk on those ships. Mm-hmm. I'm almost positive that there were black folk. Mm-hmm. I'm even suggesting that some of them could have been Moors from Spain, okay? But there was no wholesale movement of black folk to the New World and then contribute all of what the Native Americans did. And for some reason, that was lost too, I guess, in the history, that, you know, it was the black experience that contributed to the Native American history. I don't know, but I'm just saying there is no evidence of this wholesale movement of people of West and Central African descent being here before the transatlantic slave trade. So the African American community that's there today came from, we are descendants. I'm going to say this really just clearly, okay? The bulk of African Americans are descendants of enslaved Africans from West and Central Africa.